This happened a few months ago. I'm 32 now, balancing school and work as a freelance graphic designer. Late nights were my norm, and I often found myself at Walmart grabbing snacks and supplies. I thought it was comforting, but those late-night trips haunt me still. The first time I noticed something odd was on a Friday around 1 a.m. I was walking down the frozen foods aisle when I spotted a hooded figure. It was just standing there, not moving. I figured it was just another tired shopper, but something felt wrong. It seemed to glide instead of walk. My heart raced a little, but I brushed it off. Maybe I was just tired. Later that week, I went back. It seemed innocent enough, just another late-night run for some chips. As I walked toward the toy aisle, I heard laughter. But it wasn't cheerful. It echoed softly between the shelves, and it sounded strange. I paused, but the aisle was empty. A chill ran down my spine, and I hurried to the checkout. I told myself it was probably some kids messing around, but I wasn't convinced. A few nights later, I was in the dairy section trying to choose yogurt. Out of the corner of my eye, I thought I saw something move, just a shadow darting away. I spun around, but nothing was there. The store was unusually quiet, and the buzzing fluorescent lights felt off. I shook my head, thinking I had to get some sleep, but that unease followed me. After that, I started noticing odd things. I'd grab a box of cereal, and by the time I reached the self-checkout, I'd find a toy in my cart. It was an action figure I had as a kid. I was confused, questioning if I had grabbed it absent-mindedly, or was someone playing tricks on me. I felt like I was losing it. The longer I stayed, the more the place felt off. Every time I left, I glanced back at the entrance. I imagined I saw that hooded figure again, just watching. My gut twisted. If I went to Walmart one more time, would things get worse, or would I finally confront whatever lurked in the aisles? Then one night, as I approached the electronics section, I heard it again. That laughter, louder this time, almost sinister. I froze, my heart pounding. "Hello? Is anyone there?" I asked. Silence fell, heavy and eerie. Suddenly, I felt the air shift. I turned and saw the hooded figure at the end of the aisle, staring at me. I didn't stick around. Panic took over, and I bolted for the exit. Now I'm left with questions I can't answer. Was I imagining things, or was there something truly wrong with that Walmart? I don't know. Each memory creeps back, leaving me confused and uneasy. I haven't gone back since, but part of me wonders what might happen if I did. I hadn't returned to Walmart since that night, but the memories lingered like a shadow. I kept telling myself it was just my overactive imagination, fueled by late nights and stress. But deep down, I knew something was off. A couple of weeks passed. I tried to shake the unease, but late-night study sessions would bring thoughts of the hooded figure back. Eventually, I couldn't distract myself any longer. I had to know if it was all in my head. So, one night, I made the decision. I'd go back. I had to face my fears. As I drove to the store, my palms gripped the steering wheel. The fluorescent lights flickered in the distance as I approached, filling me with dread. But I needed a few supplies for my next project. Was I really going to let some haunting experiences control my life? I stepped inside, bracing myself for anything. The aisles were eerily quiet, as if they were holding their breath. I gripped my shopping basket tight and moved toward the back, keeping my eyes peeled for anything unusual. Each step felt heavy, like the air pressed against me. In the dairy section, I froze. There it was, the distinct laughter again, echoing off the walls. It sounded closer this time, almost playful, but with an edge that made my heart race. I looked around, but the aisle was empty. I hesitated, torn between curiosity and fear. Should I call out again? "Hello?" I managed to say, my voice trembling slightly. This time, there was no response. I shook my head, trying to dismiss the bizarre echo as my imagination. I turned to grab a carton of milk, willing myself to stay calm. That's when I saw it. A small child's action figure on the floor, lying calmly between the milk containers. It was the same figure that had appeared in my cart a few months ago, the one from my childhood. I felt a rush of confusion and unease wash over me. Was it a coincidence, or was this too planned? I glanced around again, but I was still alone. I picked up the figure, its tiny face looking back at me with a frozen grin. "This isn't funny," I mumbled, feeling ridiculous for even thinking someone would play a prank like this. I showed it to my basket, considering putting it back to where it belonged. But in that moment, I glimpsed a flicker of movement down the aisle. My breath caught in my throat as I quickly turned my head. There, at the end of the aisle, was the hooded figure again. This time, it was closer. It raised a hand slowly, almost as if it wanted me to follow. I wanted to run, but something compelled me to stay. What did it want? It took a step forward, and the laughter returned, this time mixed with whispers that felt like my own name. The air grew heavy, suffocating with a sense of urgency. That feeling of being drawn into the darkness surged within. Me. I stood frozen, stuck between the desire to flee and the urge to uncover the truth. What happened next felt like it stretched on for an eternity. Just then, the lights flickered violently, plunging me into darkness for a brief moment. When the lights came back on, the figure had vanished. I felt my heart plummeting. My instincts screamed that I wasn't alone anymore. The silence around me was deafening. I gripped the action figure tighter, its plastic edges biting into my palm. I wanted to scream, but fear choked back my voice. I looked down the aisle again, half expecting the hooded figure to reappear, but nothing stirred. Taking a deep breath, I forced myself to move. I walked quickly to the front of the store, past the rows of empty shelves and blinking lights. The laughter still echoed in my head, replaying like a sinister melody. I could feel warmth prickling along my spine. I had to get out, but something stopped me. That figure was giving me no peace. I wanted answers. My mind raced as I stopped in front of the electronics section. Maybe there was something on the security cameras. I glanced at my watch. It was close to midnight. The store would be quiet enough for me to take a look. I hesitated, scanning the area for any sign of life. The electronics department was filled with screens, displaying useless advertisements. I walked over to the security monitor, located beyond the checkout lanes. I felt a surge of adrenaline as I mashed the buttons, forwarding through the cameras. My heart sank when I saw nothing unusual, just empty aisles and my own face flickering across the screen. But then I noticed something odd on the footage. In the corner of one of the displays, just beside the dairy section, there was a brief flash, a movement that I couldn't attribute to myself. I rewound and paused. There was definitely something there. My breath quickened as I leaned closer to the screen. It was the same hooded figure, just for a split second. I could see a finger pointing. It was almost imperceptible, like a ghostly whisper in the dark. What did it want? Was it beckoning me? A sudden wave of anger washed over me. I wasn't gonna let fear dictate my actions anymore. I didn't come back for this. I regained my composure and prepared to head back to the dairy section. But as I turned away from the screen, I heard it again, the giggling, sharp and mocking. I froze, fear flooding back in. The sound felt close, almost in my ear. I quickly scanned the area again, dread creeping into my chest. Then a low hiss emanated from behind me. I turned slowly, my heart racing. The aisles felt tighter, closing in around me like a vice. I caught a glimpse of movement at the other end. The hooded figure was there, but not alone. Shadows danced around it, shifting and swirling. "Please," I whispered, my voice trembling. Suddenly, everything went dark again. The fluorescent lights died, plunging me into a cold darkness. I felt like I was drowning in it. Panic surged. I groped around blindly, aimlessly seeking the edge of the aisle. Just then, I felt something brush past me, a fleeting presence that sent chills through my body. I stumbled forward, desperate to escape. But when the lights flickered back on, I was met with a startling view. The figure stood just inches away from me, its face hidden in the depths of the hood. The laughter resumed, echoing in that quiet store. I backed up slowly, heart pounding. I could almost feel its breath against my skin. Then, in an instant, it was gone again, as if it had never been there at all. But I wasn't alone. My pulse quickened as the air shifted. I felt a presence hovering at my back, and something whispered my name, as if it knew me. I had to leave. But deep down, I knew a part of me was ready to confront whatever lay ahead. I stepped back, my breath hitching in my throat. The store had turned into a maze of anxiety, each aisle a potential hiding spot for the hooded figure or whatever else lurked in the shadows. I needed to keep moving, but fear held me hostage. I glanced toward the entrance. Should I run? The parking lot seemed so far away, a safe haven that felt like a distant dream. The laughter continued, taunting me, growing louder and more chaotic. It sounded like a group of children, but there was something wrong about it, something sinister woven into the giggles. Shaking my head, I forced myself to focus. There was a flicker in my mind, the image of that pointing finger on the screen. Maybe it was trying to lead me somewhere. I swallowed my fear and turned back toward the dairy section. The lights buzzed nervously overhead, casting long shadows that danced along the floor. Every step felt like a march toward the unknown. I bypassed the infamous aisle of cereal and snacks, eyes darting at every small movement. Reaching the dairy aisle, I scanned the shelves filled with milk and yogurt. But there, at the far end, I spotted something. An open door that led to the back storage area. My heart raced with both curiosity and dread. I couldn't shake the feeling that the hooded figure was linked to whatever secrets lay in that storage room. I peered down the aisle, half expecting to see it lurking, but only darkness greeted me. Steeling myself, I made a decision. I needed answers, no matter the cost. I moved toward the open door, my feet barely making a sound on the cold tile. The oppressive silence cocooned me as I passed through the threshold. I reached for the light switch, but hesitated. What if the figure was waiting for me in the dark? I decided to proceed without lights, trusting my instincts. I stepped inside, feeling my way along the wall. My fingers traced the cold, rough surface, guiding me deeper into the darkened space. I could hear faint whispers now, unintelligible and haunting. They seemed to swirl around me, escalating in urgency. Suddenly, as I rounded a corner, I stumbled over something on the ground. I gasped, catching myself before falling. My hands landed on something soft and slightly sticky. I flicked on my phone's flashlight, and the beam illuminated a bizarre sight. A scattering of action figures, like the one I had been clutching earlier. But these weren't normal. They were broken and twisted, their faces contorted in agony. "What the hell?" I muttered under my breath. A chill ran through me. I backed up, heart hammering. I realized this wasn't a coincidence. They were all similar to the one I had found in the store. I shined a light around and saw more, piled in the corners, scattered along the floor. Then came a sharp sound behind me, a low growl. I spun around, breath catching in my throat. The darkness shifted, and a figure emerged from the shadows, its hood lowered just enough to reveal a glinting set of eyes. "Stop," it rasped, holding up a hand. My heart leapt as it took a step forward, the shadows twisting around it. This was it. This was the moment of truth. But another voice echoed in my mind, demanding I turn and bolt before it was too late. I didn't know what to do, but whatever was happening was spiraling deeper and darker than I could imagine. I felt frozen in place, the growl echoing in my mind like a warning siren. The figure stood there, menacing and still. There was something unnatural about the way the shadows pulled around it, almost alive, reacting to its presence. I opened my mouth to speak, but nothing came out. "Don't come any closer," I finally managed to say, my voice wavering. The figure didn't respond, its eyes narrowing as it stepped forward. I took a shaky step back, searching for an escape route. There had to be a way out. Then, unexpectedly, a loud crash erupted from behind me, the sound of metal against tile. I jumped at the sudden noise. The loud bang was followed by a series of rattling clanks, and my heart dropped. I didn't want to turn around, but I had no choice. Gulping down my fear, I swung my flashlight toward the source of the chaos. A stack of boxes had toppled over, spilling their contents across the floor. My breath quickened as I realized they were filled with more action figures, similar to the ones I had seen scattered earlier. They looked like they had been ripped from their packaging, limbs bent at awkward angles, eyes wide in horror. The figure was still advancing, undeterred by the racket. I panicked and pivoted, darting past it in desperation. I could sense the weight of its gaze as I rushed toward the exit. Kicking over the boxes in my haste, I barely registered the sound of snapping plastic at my feet. The lint and dust of the storage room danced in the beam of my flashlight as I made my way back. I could hear the faint whispers grow louder, drowning out the laughter that had followed me. It felt as though the room itself was alive, breathing and watching. I spotted the open door and sprinted toward it. Just as I reached for the handle, I felt a cold breeze flush through the room, almost as if something had passed right by me. I hesitated, then yanked open the door and stumbled into the grocery store aisle. The noise hit me like a tidal wave. Laughter, shouting, the sounds of shopping carts crashing into each other. The bright lights felt blinding now, the stark contrast to the darkness I had escaped. But the moment offered little comfort. The laughter continued to twist in my ears as I glanced around, searching for the hooded figure. A nearby employee stared at me, a look of confusion mixed with concern on their face. "Are you all right?" they asked, stepping closer. I nodded, the truth choking in my throat. I couldn't tell them what just happened. I couldn't even process it myself. That was weird, I stammered instead. The employee raised an eyebrow, but I could feel something shift in the air. I couldn't shake the feeling I was still being watched. And then, amidst the chaos of the store, I noticed something in the corner of my eye, a flicker of movement. I turned my head sharply and spotted a hooded figure darting through the crowd, disappearing around a corner. My heart dropped as fear surged through me again. It hadn't just been a hallucination after all. Without thinking, I pushed through the crowd, adrenaline pushing me forward. I had to know what it wanted, what it meant. I didn't realize until later that I should have turned back, but it was too late now. I felt like a moth drawn to a flame, and the darkness was beckoning me once again. I squeezed through the throng of shoppers, my heart racing. The laughter and chatter faded as I chased that fleeting shadow. Each time I thought I lost sight of it, I spotted the hooded figure slipping through the aisles. It was as if something was pulling me toward it, almost like it wanted me to follow. I rounded a corner and came face to face with a row of action figures on display. My breath caught in my throat. They were everywhere, on the shelves, in twinkling boxes. Some even toppled over as if someone had knocked them down in a hurry. It was unsettling to see them out in the open, just like the ones from the storage room. Then, as I scanned the shelf, I spotted a familiar face among the toys. The same figure I had seen in the storage room. It was designed in plastic, but looked eerily similar to the figure standing in front of me before. My skin prickled. How could a toy look so lifelike? My mind raced, trying to grasp what all of this meant. Just then, something scraped against my foot. I glanced down to see a discarded toy lying on the ground, its polka-dotted fabric worn and faded. I picked it up. The moment my fingers touched it, the lights flickered harshly overhead, and a cold shiver raced down my spine. That's when I realized the laughter around me had stopped.
The air was thick with an unsettling silence, broken only by a faint echoing growl. I turned, instinctively searching for the figure, but it was gone. Panic knotted my stomach. I backed away from the toys, my eyes darting around. Nothing felt safe anymore. The store seemed vast, the aisles stretching on endlessly, becoming a maze I didn't want to navigate. Suddenly, a flash of movement caught my attention. I whipped my flashlight around. There it was, an unsettling blur of dark fabric. My heart thumped as I took off down the aisle, pushing past startled shoppers who gaped at my frantic movements. I felt irrationally desperate. I could sense it getting further away. Then I reached a dead end, a shelf stacked high with products blocking my path. I spun around and my breath hitched. The figure stood at the other end of the aisle, silhouetted by the soft store lights. I couldn't see its face, but I felt the weight of its gaze pressing down on me, chilling me to the bone. "Why are you doing this?" I managed to croak out, anger mingling with fear. It didn't respond. It just tilted its head slightly, almost like it was contemplating me. That non-action spoke volumes, and a flash of dread surged through me. As I took a hesitant step back, a box near the figure suddenly burst open, letting out a swarm of tiny plastic figures. They cascaded onto the floor, all of them resembling the hooded figure. My pulse raced, and I understood then. It wasn't an aberration. It had come for me. Turning on my heel, I bolted. I had to escape, to break this nightmare. But as I ran, I realized more shadows were converging, and I was not alone anymore. Someone, or something, was closing in. I fled toward the front of the store, but each step only deepened the feeling of being surrounded. The growls returned, low and menacing. That was when I spotted the exit sign looming bright above me, but it felt impossibly far. I couldn't shake the thought that it was simply a trick, a way to lure me into a trap. Then everything went dark. I jolted awake, my heart pounding. My surroundings were different. I was in an aisle, lying on the floor. I blinked against the harsh overhead lights, trying to catch my breath. The store was eerily quiet now. The shoppers and hushed laughter vanished. The shadowy figure was gone, but I could still feel its presence lingering in the air like a forgotten whisper. Pushing myself up, I looked around. My flashlight lay a few feet away, flickering weakly. I crawled toward it, my pulse racing. Had I fallen, or had something knocked me down? Just seconds before, I had been fleeing for my life, yet I had no memory of hitting the ground or the chaos that followed. I picked up the flashlight and shined it across the aisle. Toys littered the floor, stuffed animals and action figures scattered like forgotten dreams. I needed to leave. The exit sign still glowed in the distance, but the path appeared even more daunting. I cautiously got to my feet, feeling every creak and crackle of the store under my weight. The silence was unnerving. That's when I spotted it, a small flickering light in the far corner. It pulsed, almost beckoning. Against my better judgment, I crept towards it, each step heavy with anticipation. As I drew closer, I noticed it was a television set. It was turned on, displaying a distorted image that felt hauntingly familiar. The figures loomed on the screen, all dressed in dark hoods, their faces obscured. Brief flashes of my own panic-filled expression flickered through the chaos. I froze, my skin prickling. My heart sank as I realized this was more than just a television. It felt like a surveillance feed. "Is this what you wanted me to see?" I whispered, half expecting a response. But the only answer was the rhythmic buzzing of the screen. Then, unexpectedly, an object thudded to the ground beside me. I jumped back. It was one of the plastic figures, the very one I had seen in the storage room, staring up at me with its unsettlingly lifelike gaze. I couldn't breathe. How was it here? Had everything I witnessed just been a cruel mirage? My instinct screamed at me to run, but curiosity anchored me in place. I picked it up, examining it closely. It was worn, just as I had found it before, but with a new coat of dust, as if it had been neglected. Suddenly, a chilling laugh echoed through the aisles, a disturbingly familiar sound that twisted my stomach. I dropped the figure, which hit the ground with a sickening thud. I heard rustling, followed by a series of low growls crawling closer. My opportunity to escape was slipping away. I dashed towards the exit sign, pushing aside slumped toys and creeping shadows. I was close now, almost out. But just as I reached the door, the lights flickered once more, and the laughter crescendoed. A figure emerged from the darkness, tall and jagged. It was no longer just a silhouette. I could see its face now, twisted in a mocking grin. "Did you enjoy the show?" it taunted. I opened my mouth to scream, but no sound came out. In that moment, I realized this wasn't
Just a chase. It wanted something more, something worse. And then the ground beneath me shook. Another figure emerged, the aisle filled with them. I ran. My lungs burned as I sprinted towards the exit. Every instinct screamed at me to go faster, to escape the nightmarish figures that crowded the aisles behind me. Their laughter echoed in my ears, mingling with the darkness that clung to the edges of the store like a predator waiting for the perfect moment to strike. I reached the exit door, my hands trembling as I fumbled with the handle. It wouldn't budge. I pulled harder, panic rising as I heard the scrape of boots against the floor. I looked back. They were closer now, their faces twisted into grotesque smiles that threatened to swallow me whole. "Help!" I shouted, though I knew no one would hear me. The store was a tomb, and I was its prisoner. I turned back to the door and shouldered it, desperation fueling my strength. There had to be a way out. Then, without warning, a deafening crash broke the silence. A shelf toppled over, sending toys cascading to the floor like a cascade of colorful blocks. It distracted the figures, their attention shifting as they turned toward the noise. I seized the moment. I charged forward, my body colliding with the door. With a final push, I stumbled outside into the cool night air. I fell to the ground, gasping for breath. The sky was clear, moonlight spilling over the parking lot, illuminating the deserted expanse. But something felt wrong. I looked around, wanting to confirm that I had truly escaped. But there was no sense of safety here. Shadows loomed in every corner, and the laughter echoed faintly, a sinister reminder straight from my nightmares. I scrambled to my feet. I needed to get to my car and drive far away from this place. It was only a few rows down, but with every step I took, I felt like something was watching me. I glanced back at the store entrance. The darkness writhed, a distorted figure lingering in the doorway before vanishing. That laugh returned, clear and sharp. I pressed forward, my heart hammering in my chest. As soon as I reached my car, I fumbled with the keys, hands trembling. I could hear footsteps now, swift and determined. They were coming for me. I jumped into the driver's seat, my body shaking as I forced the key into the ignition. It rattled but caught. I slammed the gear shift into drive and sped away, my tires squealing against the asphalt. My pulse raced as I glanced in the rearview mirror, half expecting to see one of those figures chasing after me. But only darkness met my gaze. Relief washed over me, but it was short-lived. As I turned the corner, I noticed something in the back seat. A small plastic toy figure sat upright, its eyes fixed on me, wide and unblinking. I gasped, gripping the steering wheel tightly. How had it gotten there? My heart pounded again, not just from the earlier panic, but now mixed with confusion and dread. I pulled over, trembling as I glanced back. The figure looked unaltered, yet I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. Then I noticed a glimmer of light on the dashboard. It was my phone, notifications flashing. I ignored it and focused on the road, but the image on the screen caught my attention. A text from an unknown number appeared. "You didn't think it was over, Did you? A chill swept through me as I realized this nightmare was just beginning. I drove for miles, trying to put as much distance between myself and that store as possible. My instincts screamed for me to keep moving, but unease soaked into my bones. The plastic toy in the back seat nagged at my mind. How did it end up there? I forced myself not to think about it. No, I needed to focus on getting home. I glanced at the rearview mirror again. The toy still sat there, silent and motionless. I didn't know why, but its presence felt more ominous with every mile. I squeezed the steering wheel, knuckles white, trying to shake off the growing dread. This wasn't normal. Nothing about tonight was normal. As I turned onto a quieter road, the streetlights flickered, casting long shadows that danced across the pavement. My phone buzzed, vibrating against my leg. I pulled it out, heart racing, half expecting another message from that unknown number. Instead, it was a missed call. I didn't recognize the name. Great, I muttered to myself. Just what I need. I hit the button to return the call, a nervous impulse guiding my finger. A few rings later, a husky voice answered. Hello? For a moment, silence stretched between us. My thoughts raced. Did this voice belong to one of those figures? Was this some sort of game? Who is this? I finally managed to stutter. You're not alone, the voice said, a slight crackle in the air. They're watching. Always watching. I felt the blood drain from my face. What? Who are you? Do you think you escaped? They're just getting started, the voice continued with an unsettling calmness. Don't you see the signs? Look around. I hung up, panic seizing me. I felt the air grow heavier. It pressed down, suffocating. My heart raced as I turned my head, looking out the windows. I thought I caught glimpses of figures in the shadows retreating with each glance. Or maybe they were illusions of my mind. I couldn't tell anymore. Suddenly, I spotted it. A figure lurking at the edge of the road, just beyond the reach of the headlights. I slammed on the brakes, tires screeching. I didn't dare breathe. The figure stepped closer, illuminated by the harsh light. It was a man, but something was off. His face twisted into an unnatural grin, his eyes gleaming with a sadistic joy. I recoiled, locking the doors, but I felt the overwhelming urge to flee. Please just drive, I whispered to myself. Without thinking, I flipped the gear into reverse. I backed up as quickly as possible, feeling the car shudder in response. The man's laughter echoed in my ears, a haunting reminder of the store. And then I saw it, the toy again, now almost glowing, as if it was alive with energy. Its eyes blinked, and I gasped, losing control. I swerved the wheel, quirking in an unintended direction. That's when I glanced forward. The man was gone, and I was heading straight towards a thick line of trees. I slammed on the brakes again, but I was too late. Darkness swallowed me whole. Everything went black. I jolted awake, disoriented and drenched in sweat. I lay sprawled across the driver's seat, the faint glimmer of the dashboard lights reflecting the early morning sun. My heart raced as I blinked away the fog of sleep, trying to piece together the fractured remnants of my memory. I was still in my car, parked in the lot outside Walmart, but the chaos of last night felt surreal, as if it hadn't truly happened. The engine was still running, the sound of it humming quietly beneath me. I turned off the ignition, swallowing the dryness in my throat. My hand instinctively moved to the back seat. The toy was gone. A strange emptiness settled in my chest, but I also felt a flicker of relief. Maybe it had all been a nightmare. I stepped out, my legs shaky beneath me, the cold air biting at my skin. I surveyed the parking lot, half expecting to see shadowy figures lurking under the fluorescent lights. But the area was surprisingly quiet, with only a few scattered cars and the distant sounds of morning traffic.
I took a deep breath, reminding myself that I was free, at least for now. As I walked toward the store entrance, I glanced back at my car. The unease settled like a weight in my stomach. I could almost feel their presence, the laughter echoing in the back of my mind, the memories of the figures haunting me. I hesitated at the entrance, feelings of dread washing over me. Was it really over? The sliding doors opened with a soft swish, and I stepped inside. The store was just beginning to fill with early morning shoppers, the atmosphere mundane and oblivious to the nightmare I had just escaped. I hesitated again, the aisles stretching out before me like a labyrinth of uncertainty. Pushing through the doubts, I walked toward the dairy section, where everything had unraveled. But there was nothing strange on the shelves, just rows of ordinary milk and yogurt, the only remnants of last night's horror buried beneath the familiar hum of everyday life. I tried to convince myself it was all a figment of stress-induced imagination, but those strange memories clung to me like oil on my skin. Just then, I noticed